The Galactic Council chamber looked like someone had designed it specifically to make you feel small and guilty. Vaulted ceilings that disappeared into artificial clouds. Floating podiums arranged in a perfect circle of judgment. Ambient lighting that somehow made everyone look slightly disappointed in you. Ambassador Jake Hoffman stood in the center of it all, wearing a suit that had seen better decades, and a smile that absolutely did not belong on the face of someone about to be sentenced. Ambassador Hoffman, Council Adjudicator Thorman began, his 17 eye stalks quivering with bureaucratic authority. Humanity has been found guilty on 472 counts of excessive noise complaints, unauthorized frequency broadcasting, and general galactic disturbance. Your species has been warned, repeatedly. You have ignored every citation, every fine, and somehow turned your penalty payments into a subscription service that you then canceled after the free trial. Jake nodded thoughtfully. In our defense, the cancellation process was clearly labeled in the terms and conditions. Thorman's eye stalks drooped. You sent us a cease and desist letter for our own citation against you, which, legally speaking, you never responded to. So technically, enough. The word echoed through the chamber. Thormund adjusted his ceremonial judgment sash, which looked uncomfortably tight. The council has decided on a punishment appropriate to your species' unique capacity for ignoring consequences. You will be exiled to Death World Keplara 7. A holographic display materialized above them. The planet looked like God's rough draft, all angry red continents, sickly green oceans, and atmospheric systems that appeared to be actively fighting each other. Keplara 7 has been classified as uninhabitable by 47 different xenobiological standards. Thormund continued, warming to his subject. The atmosphere is corrosive. The wildlife is hyper-predatory. The geology is best described as aggressively unstable. Even the plants are carnivorous. No species has ever survived there for more than 72 hours. The other council members nodded their various appendages in approval. This was clearly the high point of their fiscal quarter. Jake studied the hologram, tilting his head. Does it have water? Yes, but it's... and breathable atmosphere? Technically, though I should mention the term breathable is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Sounds perfect. Jake clapped his hands together. When do we leave? The chamber went quiet. Thorman's eye stalks made a confused spiraling motion that probably meant something in his culture. I am sorry, did you just say perfect? Yeah, it's got everything we need. Water, air, gravity that looks pretty standard judging by the topography. Is the whole planet like this? Or are there boring parts? The entire planet is a Category Omega Death World ambassador. The boring parts, as you call them, are merely the sections where death is statistically slower. Jake pulled out a tablet and started taking notes. Okay, and what about the rotation period? We like a good 24-hour cycle if possible, but we can adapt. Thormund looked at his fellow council members. They looked back with equal confusion. This was not how exile sentences typically went. Usually there was begging, sometimes fainting. Once, memorably, a 3-hour interpretive dance of despair. Ambassador, perhaps you do not understand the severity. Oh, I understand perfectly, Jake interrupted, still typing notes. You are sending humanity to a hostile, dangerous planet where literally everything is trying to kill us, and you expect us to suffer and fail, and probably send back desperate pleas for rescue within a week. Do I have that right? Yes. Precisely. Thormund felt relieved. Finally, they were on the same page. Great. Just one question. Jake looked up from his tablet, and his smile somehow got wider. Can we keep it if we survive? The question hung in the air like a bad smell. Keep it? Thormund repeated slowly. Yeah, you know. If we make it work, do we get to stay? Because if you are literally giving us an entire planet that nobody else wants, I just want to make sure we have that in writing. For legal purposes. Thormund felt a headache forming in at least 6 of his brain hemispheres. Ambassador, you will not survive long enough for property rights to become relevant. So that's a yes? That is a you will be dead. But if we are not dead, hypothetically, fine. Thormund's eye stalks pointed in 7 different directions, which his species only did under extreme stress. Yes, if by some impossible miracle humanity survives on Keplara 7, you may remain there in perpetuity. The council will even waive all territorial claims. Does that satisfy you? Jake pulled out an actual pen and asked, Can I get that in writing? 10 minutes later, Jake left the council chamber with a signed document, coordinates to humanity's new home, and what Thormund would later describe as the most unsettling expression of customer satisfaction I have ever witnessed on any species. As the chamber doors closed, Councilmember Blix turned to Thormund. Is it concerning that he seemed happy about this? Thormund waved a dismissive appendage. Humans' posture. It is what they do. Give them 1 week on Kepler 7, and they will be begging for extraction. If they survive long enough to beg. They did not, because humanity does not beg. Humanity builds a gift shop. The colony ship touched down on Kepler 7 on a Tuesday, which turned out to be a mistake because Tuesdays were acid rain day. Is the hull supposed to be making that sound? Someone asked, as caustic precipitation hammered the exterior plating like 1,000 angry drummers who had all failed rhythm class. Define supposed to, Jake replied, watching readouts that suggested the planet's welcome was somewhere between hostile and personally offended. All right, people, let's see our new home. The loading ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics. Beyond it lay a landscape that looked like someone had asked a committee of sadists to design a vacation destination. Purple vegetation that swayed despite the lack of wind. Rock formations that seemed structurally impossible. A sky, the color of a bruise that was still deciding how bad it wanted to be. And the smell. Oh, the smell was something special. Sulfur mixed with rotting fruit mixed with what could only be described as angry electricity. It's hideous, breathed colonist Emma Rodriguez, stepping onto the soil. It's perfect, Jake corrected. Within the first hour, they discovered the gravity shifted randomly, which explained why walking sometimes felt like wading through honey, and other times felt like bouncing on the moon. 3 people had already twisted ankles. Within the first day, they encountered the local wildlife. The first specimen was roughly the size of a school bus, had too many teeth to be statistically necessary, and apparently considered humans the most interesting thing it had smelled in years. Should we shoot it? Emma asked, raising her plasma rifle. Let's try talking first, Jake suggested. It is a predator the size of a building. So were bears, and we turned them into tourist attractions. The creature charged. They shot it. Then they shot 3 more of its friends. Then they shot what appeared to be the creature's extended family reunion. By day 3, the colonists had established a perimeter, lost 2 rovers to carnivorous sink pits, and discovered that the screaming plants were not a metaphor. They actually screamed. Constantly. In C#, which was somehow worse than if they had been in any other key. Noise-canceling headphones, Jake noted on his tablet. Add it to the supply request. We are not getting supply requests approved, Emma pointed out. We have been exiled. Remember? Nobody is coming to help us. Right. Add it to the manufacturing queue then. By week 2, they had stopped counting predator attacks and started naming the predators. There was Big Tony, who showed up every morning like clockwork. Sally with the weird horns who seemed to be learning from her mistakes. The Jensens, a pack of smaller things that hunted in coordinated strikes and had what could only be described as a vendetta. The acid rain came every Tuesday like a subscription service. The gravity continued its random fluctuations. The screaming plants never shut up. The air remained technically breathable in the way that prison food was technically edible. The Galactic Council waited for the distress signal. And waited. And waited some more. Perhaps their communications equipment was destroyed? Councilmember Blix suggested during a routine session 6 months later. All of it? Thormund asked. Simultaneously, they had redundant systems. Perhaps they are all dead. Then we should send a probe to confirm. Standard protocol for exile monitoring. The council agreed. Thormund prepared the probe personally, making sure its cameras would capture maximum documentation of humanity's failure. He was already drafting the report in his head. See what happens when you ignore noise ordinances. Death world consequences. The probe launched on a Wednesday, which meant it would arrive on Kepler 7 by Friday. Back on Kepler 7, the humans had just finished construction on Main Street. Should we tell the council we are still alive? Emma asked, watching as settlers put the finishing touches on what appeared to be a pub. Nah, Jake said, sipping something that had been distilled from local plants and was probably a violation of several chemical weapons treaties. Let's surprise them. Emma looked at the settlement they had built. New Brisbane, they had called it, and the name had stuck despite several competing suggestions, including Hell's Kitchen, Spite, Town, and Steve. It had prefab housing, a power grid running on geothermal energy tapped from the planet's aggressively volcanic activity, and a surprising amount of small businesses that had already started competing with each other. Do you think they will be angry? Emma asked. Jake considered this. Probably. But here is the thing about anger. It is just surprise wearing a different hat. That does not make sense. Neither does building a pub on a death world, but here we are. Jake raised his glass toward the screaming plants in the distance. Besides, I have a feeling they are going to love what we have done with the place. The probe would arrive in 2 days. Jake had a PowerPoint presentation ready. The Galactic Council probe entered Kepler-7's atmosphere with all sensors active, ready to document the tragic but predictable failure of human colonization. Thormund watched the feed from his office, eye stalks positioned for optimal viewing of humanity's demise. The probe's AI began its report in a calm, clinical tone. Scanning for human life signs. Expected result, 0. Actual result, 2,347. Thormund's morning beverage, a ceremonial tea made from the processed thoughts of peaceful meditation monks, fell from his appendage and shattered on the floor. Repeat that, he said quietly. 2,347 human life signs detected. Vital readings indicate healthy, active populations. Scanning for settlement structures. Expected result, ruins or emergency shelters. Actual result, permanent infrastructure detected. Architectural style appears to be what humans call suburban residential with light commercial zoning. The probe's camera feed flickered to life. Thormund saw buildings. Actual buildings. With roofs that were not on fire and walls that appeared structurally sound. There were roads. Paved roads. With what looked suspiciously like traffic signs. This cannot be correct, Thormund muttered. Run a diagnostic on all sensors. All sensors functioning within normal parameters. Adjusting flight path for closer observation. Wait, I'm receiving a hailing signal. From whom? From the humans, sir. They are asking if I would like a tour. Thormund's headache returned with the force of a judicial gavel. Put them through. Jake Hoffman's face appeared on the screen, looking significantly healthier than someone living on a death world had any right to look. Behind him was what appeared to be an office with actual furniture and a window view of purple mountains that were only moderately apocalyptic. Thormund, buddy, good to see you. Well, good to see your probe. How have you been? We have been meaning to call, but honestly, time just got away from us. You know how it is when you are settling into a new place. Ambassador Hoffman, Thormund said slowly, each word carefully measured. You are alive. Yeah, we covered that in the life signs scan. Did you get our settlement registered with the council database yet? I sent the paperwork 3 months ago, but I know you folks process things on geological timescales. You sent paperwork? Standard colonial claim forms. Filled them out in triplicate. Digital signatures. The whole bureaucratic nightmare. I know how you love your procedures. Jake leaned closer to the camera. So listen, since your probe is already here, would you like the full tour? We have done some really interesting things with the place. Thormund wanted to say no. Thormund wanted to terminate the feed, recall the probe, and pretend this entire situation was a shared hallucination brought on by contaminated meditation monk tea. Instead, he heard himself say, "Show me. Fantastic." Jake stood up, grabbing the probe with what the sensors reported as physical contact, which should not have been possible given the probe's defensive shields. Come on, let me show you New Brisbane. Population 2,300 and growing. We have got a waiting list, actually. Turns out a lot of humans heard about the exile and thought it sounded like an adventure. The probe's camera bounced along as Jake carried it outside. The view showed a main street that looked like someone had transplanted a small Earth town directly onto an alien hellscape. There was a pub called the Acid Rain Tavern. A general store advertising fresh produce, which raised several questions. A community center with a sign reading, "Welcome to New Brisbane, where death takes reservations." Now I know what you are thinking, Jake said. You are thinking, Jake, how did you survive the acid rain? Simple answer. We built covered walkways between major structures and installed drainage systems that collect the runoff. Turns out acid is incredibly useful for industrial processes once you know how to handle it. We have got a whole chemical processing plant running now. That is not possible, Thormund said. Also, we scheduled everything around Tuesdays. Nobody goes outside on Tuesdays. We call it Inside Day. Very popular. Pub does great business. They passed a park where human children were playing on what appeared to be a playground. Except the playground equipment was moving on its own in the shifting gravity, and the children were laughing as they bounced between structures in ways that looked like they should result in emergency medical situations. The gravity thing was tricky at first, Jake admitted. A lot of twisted ankles those first few weeks. but then we realized it is actually kind of fun once you get used to it. We built the architecture to account for the fluctuations, flexible joints, adaptive foundations, very earthquake-proof, which is good because we get those too. Mostly on Thursdays. What about the predators? Thormund asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Oh, you mean the Megafauna? Yeah, they were a problem initially. Jake walked toward a large fenced area. Inside was one of the massive predators the Council had documented in the original Deathworld assessment. It was lying in what appeared to be a sunny spot, making a sound disturbingly similar to purring. This is Kevin. Kevin, say hi to the nice council representative. Kevin opened one massive eye, determined the probe was not food, and went back to sleep. We figured out they are actually pretty manageable if you establish dominance early and feed them consistently. They are like really big, really aggressive dogs. Kevin here is a therapy animal now. Helps with anxiety. That creature has been documented killing everything that moves. Yeah, he was hangry. We have all been there. Jake scratched behind what might have been Kevin's ear. The creature's tail thumped against the ground, creating small craters. The trick is feeding schedules and positive reinforcement. We have domesticated 6 species so far. Breeding program starts next month. They continued the tour. Jake showed off the geothermal power plant built directly into a volcanic vent. The water treatment facility that processed the toxic local water through a series of filters humanity had invented specifically for this purpose. The greenhouse complex where screaming plants were being grown intentionally because, as Jake explained, they make excellent white noise machines and the tourists love them. Tourists? Thormund repeated. Oh, right. I am getting ahead of myself. Come on, I need to show you the visitor center. The visitor center was larger than Thormund's entire governmental complex. Inside, humans were putting finishing touches on displays, showing local wildlife, geological features, and something called adventure packages. We are opening to the public in 3 months, Jake said proudly. Already got 5,000 advance reservations from 17 different species. Turns out there is a huge market for extreme tourism. Who knew? Well, we knew. But the point is we were right. Thormund stared at the displays. At the happy humans. At Kevin the domesticated murder machine. At the whole impossible situation. You turned our punishment into a business, he said finally. Jake's smile could have powered the settlement's lights for a week. Thormund, buddy, we turned your punishment into the business. Wait until you see the brochure. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called with the kind of urgency usually reserved for imminent wars or accidental planetary demolitions. Council members teleported in from across the galaxy, their various forms of confusion and outrage creating a symphony of interspecies bewilderment. Thormund stood at the central podium, eye stalks drooping with exhaustion. He had not recharged properly in 3 days. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. We have a situation. The humans are dead, yes? Councilmember Blix asked hopefully. The Deathworld situation has resolved itself through natural consequences? No. The humans are not dead. The humans are thriving. The humans have filed a formal request to present something to this council, and per our own regulations regarding colonial settlements, we are legally obligated to hear them out. A collective groan echoed through the chamber in multiple frequencies. Bring them in, Senior Adjudicator Venix said with the tone of someone about to undergo voluntary surgery without anesthesia. Jake Hoffman materialized via hologram, life-sized, and wearing what he claimed was his presentation suit, which looked identical to every other suit he owned. Behind him, the screen displayed a title card. Keplara 7, the adventure of several lifetimes, probably. Good morning, Council, or afternoon, or whatever your species experiences during this temporal cycle. I will keep this brief because I know you are all very busy passing judgment and filing paperwork. Jake clicked a remote. The screen changed to show a gorgeous sunset over New Brisbane, the acid rain creating a prismatic effect that was legitimately beautiful. 6 months ago, you sent humanity to die on the worst planet in the known galaxy. Today, I am here to thank you for the business opportunity. Councilmember Zorthan made a choking sound. His species did not have a throat, which made it all the more impressive. Let me walk you through what we have built. Click. The screen showed statistics. Current population, 2,347. Projected population by year's end, 4,000. Current annual revenue from tourism deposits alone, 17 million galactic credits. And we have not even opened yet. Tourism, Thormund said flatly. Extreme tourism, to be specific. See, it turns out there is a massive untapped market in the galaxy for people who find regular vacations boring. Your standard beach resort does not do it for them anymore. They want danger. They want excitement. They want to test themselves against nature at its absolute worst. Jake advanced the slide. We are giving them Keplara 7. The screen now showed the official tourism brochure. The cover featured a human surfing down a mountain of unstable rock during a gravity shift, screaming with either terror or joy, possibly both. The tagline read, Keplara 7. It probably will not kill you. Our market research indicates that Qualifier is actually appealing to our target demographic, Jake explained. He clicked through the package options. We have got the bronze package, supervised Death World experience, guided tours, safety equipment, emergency extraction available every hour. Perfect for families. That is 2,000 credits per person, 3-day minimum. Click. Silver package, semi-supervised survival challenge. You get basic supplies and a map. Extraction available every 12 hours. You will probably see a predator. You might have to run from said predator. Character building stuff. 5,000 credits, week-long experience. Click. Gold package. Unassisted wilderness survival. We drop you somewhere random with a knife and a water filter. Extraction beacon activates after 72 hours. But you can trigger emergency extraction anytime if you are willing to pay the coward's fee, which is double the package cost. This package comes with a waiver that our legal team describes as comprehensive and our ethics team describes as concerning. 10,000 credits. Click. And finally, the platinum package, the full Keplara experience. 1 month, minimal supplies. You help build infrastructure, fight off predators, experience acid rain Tuesdays, and participate in our agricultural program. This package actually pays you 3,000 credits because we need the labor, and honestly, if you survive, you have earned it. The council sat in stunned silence. Jake continued, undeterred. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking this is insane. Nobody would pay to visit a death world, except we have already got 5,000 advance bookings from species across the death galaxy. Thrill seekers, trust fund kids looking for meaning, retirement age folks who want one last adventure, sociologists studying human adaptation. We have even got 2 reality show producers negotiating filming rights. This is psychological warfare, Councilmember Blix whispered. This is economics, Jake corrected cheerfully. We have also got merchandise, t-shirts that say I survived Keplara 7, coffee mugs, holovids. We are negotiating a book deal about the first 6 months. The working title is We Thought It Was Exile, but it was actually real estate. Thormund felt something fundamental breaking in his understanding of how the universe worked. Ambassador, the council sent you to Keplara 7 as punishment. And we appreciate it. Honestly, we could not have asked for a better business model. You gave us a whole planet that nobody else wanted, dropped us there with no oversight, and then legally signed away all territorial claims. From an entrepreneurial perspective, that is, the dream. We expected you to suffer. Oh, we did. Those first 2 weeks were genuinely terrible. Emma still has nightmares about Big Tony. But suffering builds character. Character builds resilience, and resilience builds profitable tourism infrastructure. Jake smiled. Also, we discovered the local fungi make excellent beer once properly processed. That helps. Senior Adjudicator Venix leaned forward. The council cannot allow this. It sets a dangerous precedent. Species cannot simply turn their exile sentences into commercial ventures. With respect, Adjudicator, you already allowed it. You signed the documentation giving us permanent settlement rights. I have got your signatures, your official seals, and 17 lawyers who assure me it is all legally binding. You cannot retroactively change the terms because you are surprised we succeeded. We could revoke your... You could try, Jake interrupted gently. But that would require admitting that you miscalculated the severity of the punishment, which would raise questions about your judgment in other cases. Also, we have already sold 5,000 tickets. Imagine the lawsuit if you force us to cancel. Humans are very litigious. We would probably sue you all the way to the Supreme Galactic Court. Discovery would be fun. The chamber descended into chaos. Council members argued in 7 different languages simultaneously. Thormund's eye stalks tangled themselves into a knot of bureaucratic despair. Jake waited patiently, his smile never wavering. Finally, Venix called for order. This session is adjourned. The council will deliberate on this matter and provide a response within 30 standard cycles. Take your time. Jake said. Our grand opening is not for another 3 months anyway. Oh, and one more thing. He clicked the remote one final time. The screen showed a map of the galaxy with 3 planets highlighted. These are the other death worlds we are currently surveying for franchise locations. Just thought you should know. In case you want to get ahead of the paperwork. The hologram winked out. Thormund looked at Blix. Blix looked at Zorthan. Zorthan looked at the floor. We created a monster, Blix said quietly. No, Thormund corrected. We gave a monster its own planet, and it just sent us a thank you card. 3 months later, the first transport ship arrived at Keplara 7, carrying exactly 143 tourists from 12 different species, each of whom had paid substantial amounts of money for the privilege of visiting a planet that was literally classified as uninhabitable. Jake stood at the newly constructed spaceport, watching the ship descend through atmosphere that was still technically corrosive. The landing pad had been built on what used to be a predator nesting ground. The predators had been relocated, most of them peacefully, some of them less peacefully. One of them was now named Dennis and worked in security. Do you think this is going to work? Emma asked, reviewing the passenger manifest on her tablet. We have already got their money, Jake pointed out. At this point, working is a relative term. The ship's doors opened. The first tourist emerged cautiously. A Glorbulian noble named Thraxus who had apparently spent his trust fund on adrenaline instead of therapy. He wore what his species considered adventure gear, which looked like someone had designed hiking clothes for a being made of expensive jelly. Welcome to Keplara 7, Jake announced through the speakers. Please proceed to the orientation building, where you will watch a mandatory safety video, sign 17 pages of legal waivers, and receive your survival package based on which experience tier you have purchased. The tourists filed out, their expressions ranging from excited to terrified to expensively medicated. There was a Zentarii couple who had apparently decided that visiting a death world was more romantic than marriage counseling. A group of young Crixians on what they called a graduation trip. An elderly Fovian who claimed he had visited every habitable planet in the galaxy and wanted to try something different before he died. Sir, the different might be what kills you here, Emma had pointed out during the booking process. Perfect, the Fovian had replied. The orientation building was designed to look welcoming, while simultaneously communicating the message, you could absolutely die here. The safety video was narrated by Jake, with what he called realistic optimism, and what the legal team called plausible deniability. Rule 1, Jake's recorded voice explained as footage showed a predator chasing a tourist. Stay with your group. The wildlife has learned that groups are harder to eat than individuals. Rule 2, acid rain happens every Tuesday. Your schedule has been designed around this. If you are outside during acid rain, you will experience what we professionally describe as a bad time. Rule 3, gravity shifts are random. If you suddenly feel heavy or light, that is normal. Adjust accordingly. If you do not adjust accordingly, medical is on standby. The video continued for 20 minutes, covering everything from carnivorous plants to volcanic activity to why you should never pet anything with more than 6 eyes. Then came the waivers. 17 pages, single-spaced, written by lawyers who had clearly enjoyed themselves. Thraxus the Glorbulian read through all of it, his eye cluster widening with each page. This section says you are not responsible if I am eaten, he said. Correct, Emma confirmed. This section says you are not responsible if I am dissolved. Also correct. This section says you are not responsible if I am eaten and then dissolved. That is a separate scenario with distinct legal implications. Thraxus signed with what might have been trembling appendages. I have paid 50,000 credits for the platinum package. You have paid for an authentic, death world experience, Jake said, appearing in person to welcome the premium customer. And we are going to deliver exactly that. Your package includes 1 month of unassisted wilderness survival, participation in our agricultural program, and what we call the full Keplara immersion. You will build things. You will fight things. You will question your life choices. By the end, you will either be a changed being or requesting emergency extraction, which I should mention costs an additional 20,000 credits. The coward's fee, Thraxus said, reading from the brochure. We prefer to call it the alternate conclusion surcharge, but yes. The bronze package tourists were loaded into guided tour vehicles that looked like they had been designed to survive direct artillery strikes. Their guide was a cheerful human named Rick, who had been on Keplara 7 since day 1 and had what he described as a healthy relationship with mortality. On your left, you will see the screaming plants, Rick announced as the vehicle drove past a field of purple vegetation producing sounds that violated several audio frequency regulations. They do that 24/7. We have learned to find it soothing. On your right, that is Kevin. Kevin is a domesticated apex predator. Wave to Kevin. Kevin, lying in his enclosure, did not wave back. He did, however, watch the vehicle with the focus of something deciding whether it was hungry. The silver package tourists received their semi-supervised survival kits and were dropped in designated zones that were rated as only moderately lethal. They had maps, they had supplies, they had emergency beacons, they had 4 guides watching from a distance in case anyone was about to die in a way that would generate negative reviews. The gold package tourists were given a knife, a water filter, and a grid coordinate. Good luck, was the entire briefing. 3 of them requested immediate emergency extraction before even leaving the spaceport. Their cowards' fees funded the settlement's new community pool. Thraxis, the Glorbulian, platinum package purchaser, was given a more comprehensive briefing. You will be assigned to Agricultural Sector 7, Emma explained. Your job is to help maintain the crop fields, which involves regular combat with local herbivores who believe our crops are also their crops. You will live in communal housing. You will participate in defense rotations. You will experience acid rain, gravity fluctuations, and personal growth. I am a noble, Thraxis said. I have never worked in agriculture. You are about to learn, Jake said, handing him a plasma rifle. Welcome to Keplara 7. Try not to die. It is bad for our statistics. By the end of day 1, medical had treated 12 gravity-related injuries, 4 panic attacks, and 1 tourist who had tried to pet something with 8 eyes despite explicit video instructions. The bronze package tourists were having the time of their lives in a controlled, supervised, reasonably safe way. The silver package tourists were questioning their decisions, but not yet requesting extraction. The gold package survivors were already down to half their original number, though to be fair, most of them had just chickened out rather than actually dying. And Thraxis was in the agricultural fields, covered in mud and something that might have been herbivore blood, fighting off a creature that wanted to eat his crops, experiencing what he would later describe in his 5-star review as the most alive I have ever felt. Jake watched the chaos from the operations center, monitoring every tourist location and vital signs. We did it, Emma said. We actually made Death World tourism work. Of course we did, Jake replied. Humans have been monetizing suffering since someone figured out you could charge admission to watch gladiators. This is just the logical evolution. The communication console beeped. Incoming message from the Galactic Council. Jake opened it. Thorman's face appeared, his eye stalks arranged in what might have been resignation. Ambassador Hoffman, Thorman said tiredly. The Council has reviewed your tourism operation. Against our better judgment and over our unified objections, we have determined that you are operating within legal parameters. Your settlement and commercial venture are officially recognized. Appreciate it, Thormund. However, Thormund leaned closer to the camera. The Council wants to make it clear that we are watching. Any violations, any incidents, any reason to shut down this operation, and we will take it. Jake smiled. Understood. We will maintain the highest standards of Death World hospitality. That phrase should not exist. And yet here we are. Jake glanced at his monitors, showing happy tourists experiencing carefully calibrated danger. Oh, and Thormund, we finalized the purchase on those 3 other Death Worlds. Paperwork should hit your desk by tomorrow. We are thinking of calling the franchise Death World Adventures. Has a nice ring to it. Thorman's eye stalks drooped so low they nearly touched his desk. You have created a nightmare, he said. We have created a business model, Jake corrected. There is a difference. The transmission ended. Emma looked at Jake. 3 more Death Worlds? Economic expansion. It is what humans do best. Jake pulled up the financial reports. They were extremely positive. Besides, if the galaxy is going to try to punish us, the least we can do is send them a thank you card and an invoice. Outside, somewhere in Agricultural Sector 7, Thraxis was screaming. It was unclear whether it was from terror or exhilaration. Either way, he had paid for the experience. 6 months after the grand opening, Jake Hoffman stood once again before the Galactic Council, this time via hologram from Keplara 7. Behind him, clearly visible through the office window, was the settlement of New Brisbane in all its thriving, improbable glory. The Welcome to Keplara 7 sign in the background now featured a 5-star rating based on over 3,000 tourist reviews. Council, Jake began, his smile radiating the confidence of someone who had turned cosmic punishment into a profit margin. I just wanted to take a moment to formally thank you for this incredible business opportunity. Thorman's eye stalks had developed a permanent droop. Ambassador, if you are here to request something else, not at all. Just wanted to update you on our progress. 27,000 tourists have visited Keplara, 7 inches the past 6 months. Our safety record is actually better than most standard resort planets, primarily because our tourists expect danger and come prepared. Revenue has exceeded projections by 400%. We have a 2-year waiting list for the Platinum package. Councilmember Blix made a sound like air escaping from a diplomatic incident. We have also received inquiries from 3 other species, asking if we would consider accepting their exiled populations, Jake continued. Apparently word got out that humanity turned a punishment into a paradise. We politely declined because frankly we have got enough competition in the Death World tourism market already. You cannot be serious, Senior Adjudicator Venix said. Completely serious. In fact, I wanted to let you know that we have finalized the purchase of 3 additional condemned planets from the Galactic Reclamation Authority's auction last month. Jake pulled up a holographic display showing 3 worlds that made Keplara 7 look welcoming. Death World Adventures is officially expanding. We are calling the new locations Keplara 7 Extreme, Keplara 7 Nightmare Mode, and Keplara 7. You signed the waiver. Those are not the planet's actual names, Thormund protested weakly. They are now. We own them. Branding rights and everything. Jake zoomed in on the first planet. This one has predators that hunt in packs of 50. This one has weather patterns that include lightning storms made of frozen methane. And this one, this beautiful disaster, has a day-night cycle that lasts 6 hours, which means you experience sunrise, noon, sunset, and deadly nocturnal predators 4 times per standard day. Early projections suggest we will need to build 3 times the medical facilities. The council chamber had gone silent. It was the silence of beings who had collectively realized they had made a terrible mistake but were too committed to the bit to back out now. We are also pleased to announce our corporate partnership with the Zentarii Resort Corporation. They are handling bookings for our mid-tier packages, which frees us up to focus on the premium experiences. Jake's smile somehow widened. Oh, and we have started an educational program, Death World Survival Training. We are certifying guides from other species. Turns out there is demand for that skill set. Who knew that deliberately teaching people how to survive in the worst possible conditions could be profitable? This is insanity, Venix said, though his tone suggested he was no longer sure what insanity even meant. This is capitalism, Jake corrected. And before you ask, yes, we are paying all appropriate taxes and fees. Our legal team is very thorough. We even filed for historical preservation status on the original landing site. Future generations should remember where humanity turned exile into entrepreneurship. Thormund finally found his voice. Ambassador Hoffman, when the Council sentenced humanity to Keplara 7, the intent was to teach you humility, to make you understand that there are consequences for ignoring galactic regulations. And we learned so much, Jake said with absolutely no sincerity. We learned that death worlds are undervalued real estate. We learned that danger is marketable. We learned that the galaxy is full of beings with too much money and not enough survival instincts. Truly educational, experience all around. That is not what we meant to teach you. Maybe you should have been more specific in the lesson plan. Jake glanced at something off-screen, then back at the council. Anyway, I should wrap this up. We have got a new batch of tourists arriving in 20 minutes, and one of them is a council member's nephew. Gold package. Kid wanted the authentic experience. We will take good care of him, probably. Wait, whose nephew? Blix started. Thanks again for the planets, Council. Really, you have been incredibly supportive of human expansion, even if it was accidentally. We should do this again sometime. I hear there is a black hole system that nobody wants. Might be fun to see what we can do with extreme gravity tourism. Jake gave a cheerful wave. Oh, and check your messages. We sent you all complimentary bronze package vouchers. On the house. You know, in case you ever want to see what you created. The hologram winked out. The council sat in absolute silence. Finally, Blix spoke. We did not punish them. We gave them a playground. We gave them 3 playgrounds, Zorthan corrected miserably. They bought 2 more. Thormund stared at the space where Jake's hologram had been. In all his centuries of government service, through diplomatic incidents and trade disputes, and that one memorable war that had started over a misunderstanding about furniture, he had never felt quite this level of bureaucratic defeat. "We need to revise our exile protocols," he said finally. "To what?" "To what?" Venix asked. "Not exiling humans to places they might enjoy? To not exiling humans anywhere. They will just build a gift shop." Back on Keplara 7, Jake ended the transmission and turned to Emma, who was reviewing the day's schedules. "How did it go?" she asked. "I think Thorman finally understands." "Understands what?" "That you cannot punish humans by giving us challenges. We just turn them into opportunities." Jake looked out the window at New Brisbane, at the tourists experiencing carefully managed danger, at Kevin, the therapy predator, at the whole beautiful disaster they had built. "Also, I think we broke him a little bit." "Good," Emma said. "He deserved it for the whole exile thing." "Agreed." Jake pulled up the schematics for the new Death Worlds. "Now let's go break some more real estate records. These planets are not going to develop themselves." Somewhere in the agricultural sectors, Thraxis the Glorbulian was finishing his month-long platinum package. He was covered in scars, exhausted, and already filling out the form to purchase an extended stay. He had found purpose in the struggle, meaning in the survival, and a sense of accomplishment that 50,000 credits of trust fund money could never have bought him anywhere else. On Tuesday, it rained acid. The tourists thought it was beautiful. Humanity sent the council a postcard. It read, "Wish you were here. Actually, no, we do not. But thanks for the real estate." The Galactic Council never tried to punish humanity again. They had learned their lesson. Humanity had not. They were too busy scouting their fourth Death World.